morning, lovelies. A little while ago, I made a video about how to plot out your novel, how to outline it, by using the biggest story beats as a starter. So like the catalyst, the midpoint, the lowest point, that type of thing. This is something of a sequel, as we are going to be plotting out the climax, or the final act of your story. And we're going to be using the exact same source, Jessica Brody's Save the Cat Writes a Novel. It's good. Please go buy it and read it, alright? This is not sponsored anyway. It's a really good writing tool. Brody breaks the final act, what will most likely be Act 3, into 3 distinct parts. There's Break into 3, there's the finale, which is then subdivided into 5 parts, and then the final image, aka the resolution. We're going to go through all of them, and we're mostly going to be using Pixar and Disney as references because those types of stories have some of the clearest story beats and media, while still being really good stories. Before we get into all of that, some quick announcements. My novella To Kill a Necromancer comes out this month. I can't believe it. It is the first of an epic fantasy novella series that's set in a world based loosely on ancient Greece and Rome. Genua is a young paladin who is sent on her very first mission to kill an evil necromancer. But things get complicated when she meets a mysterious stranger with his own agenda and secrets. Despite how that sounds, there is no romantic subplot in this. There is a friendship plot though, because enemies to friends is superior to enemies to lovers in every way. I said what I said. Also, Citadel, my first ever science fiction novel with Blackstone Publishing, comes out in June. 4 months. Good God. Olivia is a scientist on an alien planet whose people are at war with demons of the flooded forest. Little more than evil beasts and animals. Except Olivia figures out that they're not animals or demons or evil, and that her entire society is based on a lie. So she goes on an ill-advised and highly dangerous solo mission into the flooded forest to get answers. This is the one with the telepathic, telekinetic wolves with wings. The pre-order link for both of these books is in the description of this video, so check them out if you want yet another book to add to your TBR pile. They will both be available in ebook and audio format, and Citadel will also have paperback and hardcover releases. Also, I did a mini-series on TikTok about a Dark Lord who, by genuine accident, kinda kidnaps and adopts a princess who is sent to kill him, and it got popular enough that I'm turning it into a book as well. It's currently called Accidentally Kidnapped. I'll probably change that to something like Kingdom of Starlight, and I'm uploading each chapter onto Patreon. You can get the link for that in the description. Now on to the actual video. So we're going to start with Break into 3. Break into 3 is the transition from Act 2 to Act 3, and it usually comes shortly after a particular low point in the story. The heroes have just lost a fight, or a major character has died, and the bad guys are all but assured victory at this point. But then the main character suddenly has a breakthrough. They realize what they've been doing wrong this whole time, and know exactly what they must do to succeed. This is joy, realizing that sadness is a necessary emotion that she should not suppress. It's Moana, realizing that she does not need a demigod's help, she can do this quest on her own. It's Judy getting that final piece of the puzzle to solve this case. When the character picks themselves up and brushes themselves off, that's Break into 3. Now we actually get into the finale, the actual climax of your story. And as I mentioned earlier, it is divided into 5 parts. Part 1 is called Gathering the Team, or gathering the tools, depending on the story. In order to storm the castle, fight the villain, save the world, do whatever they need to do, the hero needs to reassemble their team. This is the beat where they do that. Now granted, they might not be on speaking terms with some of these teammates after the disaster that was the darkest hour at the end of Act 2. So this story beat might be dedicated to mending those relationships. This is what we saw in Zootopia, when Judy tracks down and apologizes to Nick for being a bigoted bitch and asking for his help. It's also in every superhero team movie ever, where the entire team gets back together for one more go. Inside Out subverted this by killing the ally. Bing Bong sacrifices himself so Joy can get out of the memory dump. It saves her and makes her goal of getting sadness and saving Riley possible, but it also means that she's doing it on her own rather than with additional additional help. If there is no team or army to assemble and it's just the character on their own, then instead of gathering the team, this is called gathering the tools. Basically, they're gathering what they need and figuring out the plan on their own. This is what we saw Moana do. Planning is a very essential part of this step because it sets up reader expectations that you can subvert later on in the finale. Part 2 is executing the plan. This is the heroes doing the thing. They're storming the castle, facing the villain, trying to shut down the doomsday device, doing what they need to do. The plan that seemed absolutely crazy and impossible actually starts to work. Moana gets past Taka. Judy and Nick find the illegal Night Howler lab. Joy finds Sadness. Things are going pretty well. That is not to say that things are going perfectly. A lot of minor characters tend to go out during the story beat. They don't necessarily have to die, but they get knocked out or injured badly enough to keep them out of the main fight. Or they're too busy handling the minions so that the main characters can go after the big villain. This is absolutely on purpose. It peels away all of those potential allies and backup and help that the main character might have before they face off against the final villain. The more we can stack the odds against the heroes, the better, because it increases the stakes and the tension. And the best way to do that is to take that oh so carefully crafted plan from, the last part and tear it to shreds. Part 3, the High Tower Surprise. Brody calls it the High Tower Surprise because she uses a storming the castle analogy for this entire finale. I call it the plan goes foobar. Basically, it's just that. The tables turn on the heroes. The knight has successfully stormed the castle to save the princess, only to find that the princess is not there. Worse, that he's been led into a trap. This is where a lot of climactic plot twists show up. Characters that you thought were good guys are actually in league with the villains. Or in Zootopia's case, they were the main villain all along. This can be especially rough if this was a major character that both the hero and the audience saw as a true friend and ally. The betrayal can really tear them apart. Another option, if there's no betrayal in the cards, is that the Earth Goddess the hero was supposed to give the main MacGuffin to is gone. And worse, their ally's magic weapon is bust, making the former powerhouse almost completely useless. Maybe the shady global council that's supposed to be helping the team of heroes has launched a nuke into the city in an attempt to take out all the bad guys that will also kill the heroes and several thousand bystanders. Many darker stories often critically injure a major character at this point. They usually don't die at this beat, waiting until the day is saved and getting in some last words before kicking the bucket, or it will injure them enough to set them up for an ultimate sacrifice that they figure out that they have to do in the next beat. Either way, it is clear that the injured character, at least, is not making it out of this alive, and they're in no physical condition to keep on fighting, putting them down for the count and further handicapping their friends. This is often another darkest hour moment. It's an oh shit, we really are going to fail this time, aren't we? It's the part where even the audience is wondering how exactly are they going to make it out of this? Part 4, dig deep down. In many ways, this is simply a reactionary beat to the High Tower Surprise. The characters are regrouping, coming up with a new plan, looking over their options, and it usually boils down to realizing whatever moral or lesson or theme that the story is trying to go for here. Sometimes this takes place off screen. Nick and Judy swap out the Night Howler bullets for blueberries while Mayor Bellwether is monologuing about using the Predators as a political scapegoat. But usually we see this happen in real time. We see Moana put the pieces together as she sees that Taka has the same spiral design on her chest. At the same time, Maui fulfills his character arc of being willing to sacrifice both himself and his hook to make up for his mistakes. Tony Stark also gears up for a heroic sacrifice. If a character was critically injured in the last beat, then this is usually when they realize that the only thing they can do is to sacrifice themselves completely so that their friends or the world survives. Joy has to get really creative to get herself and Sadness back to headquarters when Sadness refuses to go with her, believing everything that Joy has previously implied about Riley being better off without her. And part 5, executing the new plan. The heroes do the thing, and it works. Usually. Tragedies are kind of their own thing. They have used whatever lessons they needed to learn over the course of the story, and that gives them what they need to triumph. Joy gets Sadness to headquarters and has her get Riley to stay in California, because Riley needs to feel something other than joy, and she needs to acknowledge her grief. Nick and Judy reveal that they were playing the mayor. They recorded her gloating confession, and now she's going away for, honestly, probably not as long as she should have, given how corrupt and classist the prison system is. But anyway, Moana gives Te the heart, transforming her back into Te Fiti. Tony Stark blows up the alien mothership and actually survives. In darker stories, the heroes might save the day, but there's a cost. A major or even main character makes a heroic sacrifice in the new plan and dies immediately after. Honestly, endings like this make up some of my favorite stories, and it brings its own set of catharsis, even if it is bittersweet. That's your warning for Citadel. And finally, we have the final image. This is the very end of the story, the last scene of the movie, the final chapter, maybe final 2 chapters of the novel, the last thing that the audience experiences before the end credits. Traditionally, this is called the resolution. It ties up any other loose ends left in the story, usually involving subplots that did not get resolved in the climax or specific themes that need just one last touch before we go. More often than not, it parallels the opening scene of the story in many key ways. Moana's final image is her leading her people to explore the ocean after being explicitly told in the opener that she has to stay on the island. Inside Out's final image is joy and sadness working together along with all the other emotions to help Riley, rather than just having Joy call the shots and control the panel by herself. Judy gives Nick his police badge and they go on their first official case together. It's the bye lovelies to the good morning lovelies, and it's they lived happily ever after. The resolution is the final piece of the puzzle that tells us that these characters are going to be okay, or at least they'll be happier than when they started. Or not. Again, tragedies are something else. And that is how to write the final act of your story. If you need more personalized help with your specific manuscript, my coaching services are linked in the description of this video. To Kill a Necromancer comes out February 24th, Citadel comes out June 20th. They're both linked in the description, so grab yourself a copy. You work hard. You deserve a treat. I will see you next time. Bye, lovelies.